There are moments in life when nothing dramatic is happening, yet everything feels heavy. Not heavy in a way you can explain, not heavy enough to call a crisis, just a quiet weight that follows you through the day. You wake up and nothing is wrong. Your life still works on the surface, but something inside no longer moves the way it used to. This is often the moment people feel confused the most, because pain usually comes with reasons. This does not. When life feels heavy like this, the mind immediately begins searching for explanations. It scans your circumstances, your work, your relationships, your past decisions. It assumes something must be broken, something must be missing, something must have gone wrong. But this heaviness does not usually come from failure. It comes from seeing too clearly for the old ways of living to keep working. For a long time, life moves forward on momentum, goals, responsibilities, roles, identities. They carry you, they give structure, they provide direction. Until one day, without warning, they stop carrying the same meaning, and suddenly the weight of simply existing becomes noticeable. This is when people often say, "I feel stuck. I feel unmotivated. I feel lost." But what is actually happening is more subtle. The mind's old reasons for moving forward no longer convince you. And without reasons, movement feels heavy. Not because life is asking more of you, but because something false is falling away. Most of human suffering does not come from events. It comes from how tightly we grip our interpretation of events. When life does not match the story you are living by, tension arises. The body tightens, the mind resists, and heaviness appears. This resistance often goes unnoticed. It feels normal, but it is exhausting. Two people can experience the same difficulty. One becomes hardened, the other becomes present. The difference is not strength, it is not intelligence, it is not spirituality. It is simply the way consciousness meets what happens. When life feels heavy, it is usually because awareness has not yet entered the situation. Reaction is running the experience. Judgment is shaping perception. Identity is taking everything personally. And identity carries weight. Identity needs life to mean something specific. It needs progress, purpose, validation. When these begin to dissolve, identity panics. It interprets the loss of meaning as danger. But awareness does not need meaning to be at peace. It only needs presence. This is why comfortable lives rarely wake people up. Comfort allows unconsciousness to continue quietly. Nothing challenges the story. Difficulty interrupts that sleep. It removes distractions. It forces attention inward, not to punish you, but to wake you. When life feels heavy, distractions lose their effectiveness. Entertainment feels hollow. Busyness feels forced. Even achievement feels strangely empty. This is not depression. It is disillusionment. And disillusionment, though uncomfortable, is honest. The mind will try to escape this honesty. It will look for something new to chase, a new goal, a new identity, a new version of yourself. But chasing meaning is still resistance. It is still avoidance of what is here. Heaviness begins to lift not when life changes, but when resistance softens. When you stop asking life to justify itself. When you stop demanding clarity before presence. When you allow uncertainty without trying to escape it. This is where awareness quietly enters. Awareness does not fix your situation. It changes your relationship to it. The same life remains. The same challenges remain. But the inner tension dissolves. What once felt unbearable becomes workable. What once felt personal becomes spacious. This is why life's most difficult periods often become turning points, not because they were painful, but because they revealed something essential. They showed you where you were living unconsciously, where identity was carrying too much weight, where resistance was disguised as control. If life feels heavy right now, do not rush to escape the feeling. Do not label it as failure. Do not try to fix it prematurely. Something important is happening beneath the surface, not in your circumstances, but in your relationship to being alive. And this is where true freedom begins to appear. There is a moment, often very quiet, when you realize that fighting the heaviness only makes it heavier. The effort to escape becomes more exhausting than the feeling itself. This is usually the first real opening. Not because the problem is solved, but because resistance pauses. In that pause, something unexpected appears. Space. Space does not mean answers. It does not mean relief in the conventional sense. It simply means you are no longer completely identified with the struggle. You begin to notice the heaviness instead of being it. And this small shift changes everything. What you observe cannot fully control you. Most people wait for life to become lighter before allowing themselves to be present. But presence does not wait for conditions to improve. Presence arrives when you stop demanding that the moment be different. This is why awakening often happens in difficulty, not comfort. Comfort seduces attention outward. Difficulty brings it home. When awareness enters a heavy moment, it does not judge it as good or bad. Judgment belongs to the mind. Awareness simply notices. Noticing is powerful because it dissolves the story that says, "This should not be happening to me." Without that story, suffering loses its fuel. Life becomes heavy when every experience is filtered through me. Why is this happening to me? What does this say about me? What will this lead to for me? The self-image carries enormous weight. When it relaxes, life feels lighter, even if nothing changes externally. You may notice that the heaviness intensifies when you think about the future. This is not accidental. The future exists only as thought, and thought multiplies weight by imagining outcomes that do not yet exist. Presence removes the future without denying responsibility. It grounds action in now, where life is manageable. Many people confuse surrender with passivity. But surrender is not giving up. It is giving up resistance. From surrender, intelligent action arises naturally. Action without inner conflict. Action without psychological burden. This kind of action feels lighter even when it is challenging. There is a deep misunderstanding that life should feel good most of the time. This expectation itself creates suffering. Life is not designed to constantly satisfy the ego. It is designed to awaken consciousness. When you understand this, difficulty no longer feels like betrayal. It feels like instruction. The heaviness you feel is not asking you to become stronger. It is asking you to become more present. Strength belongs to the ego. Presence belongs to being. Being does not struggle. It allows, and in allowing, transforms. As presence deepens, you may notice moments of stillness appearing between thoughts. They are subtle, easy to miss. But in these moments, there is no heaviness, no problem, no story, just aliveness, simple and quiet. The mind will try to reclaim control. It will say, "This won't last," or "You lose this peace." Notice these thoughts without engaging them. They are not warnings, they are habits. Awareness does not need to defend itself. Gradually, life begins to feel less personal. Challenges still arise, but they no longer define you. You respond instead of react. You listen instead of resist. You act without the burden of psychological identity. This is freedom, not from life, but within it. You may still experience sadness, you may still experience uncertainty, but they move through you instead of settling in you. They are weather, not climate, experiences, not identity. This is the difference between pain and suffering. When life feels heavy, It is often a sign that something deeper wants to live through you, something that cannot emerge while the ego is in control. The heaviness breaks the old structure. It humbles the mind. It creates openness. And in that openness, presence takes root. So if you are carrying heaviness right now, let this be your understanding. Nothing has gone wrong. You are not behind. You are not failing. Life is inviting you into a deeper relationship with this moment. Not through effort, but through awareness. And when awareness becomes your home, life may still challenge you, but it will no longer crush you. There is a quiet dignity in allowing life to be exactly as it is. Not because you approve of everything, but because you stop arguing with reality. When the inner argument ends, energy that was trapped in resistance becomes available for clarity. Notice how much effort is spent mentally revisiting the past. Regret, resentment, replaying conversations. None of it changes what happened. Presence gently withdraws attention from the past and brings it back to the only place where life actually unfolds. The mind believes it survives by control, but control is an illusion that creates tension. When control relaxes, awareness remains. And awareness does not collapse without control. It becomes more stable. Stillness is not emptiness. It is fullness without noise. In stillness, you may sense a subtle joy that does not depend on circumstances. This joy does not shout. It simply is. Many people are afraid of slowing down because they fear they will disappear. But what disappears is not you. It is the false self that needed constant movement to feel real. What remains is simpler, quieter, and more alive. When identity loosens, compassion naturally arises, not as an idea, but as a felt sense of connection. You see others struggling with the same unconscious patterns you once believed were personal failures. This is why awakening is not a private achievement. It softens the way you relate to everyone. Less judgment, less reactivity, more listening. Stillness expresses itself through kindness. Life does not become predictable after awakening. Uncertainty remains. But uncertainty is no longer threatening when you are anchored in presence rather than outcome. You trust life, not blindly, but deeply. If heaviness returns, do not see it as regression. See it as an invitation to go deeper. Awareness is not a destination. It is a practice that renews itself in each moment. And so, when life feels heavy again, pause. Not to escape, not to analyze, but to be. In that simple pause, you may discover that what you were seeking was never missing, only overlooked. Presence does not ask you to understand life. Understanding belongs to the mind. Presence asks only one thing: that you are here for what is happening now. When you stop trying to understand everything, life becomes surprisingly intimate. The heaviness you once feared may become something you recognize as familiar, not because you enjoy it, but because you no longer mistake it for an enemy. It becomes another doorway through which awareness enters. Stillness is always available, not later, not after healing, not when life improves. It is available in the middle of confusion, in the middle of uncertainty, in the middle of not knowing. Nothing needs to be added to this moment for it to be complete. When you stop searching for completion elsewhere, a quiet gratitude begins to emerge on its own. Not forced, not practiced, simply felt. So, if life feels heavy today, let that be enough. Enough to stop, enough to breathe, enough to notice. You are not meant to carry life alone. When awareness carries it with you, the weight changes.